I'm not sure if the listeners can hear you because you're coming through only on my desk phone. So let's ask if so. Rabbi Heber, why don't you say a few things and see? We'll see if
people. Let's see. This coming year is 5781. Tafshin Pei Aleph.
Okay. All right. We have some responses that they can hear. So let's get started.
Okay, great.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. It's we missed about 15 minutes of time, and just this is related to computer glitches. What can we say?
I tried unmuting. There was a technical problem with my phone call. People were writing unmute. Right. We tried unmuting both ways, but for some reason it wasn't working.
Right. Okay. So maybe this will we can see you and we'll hear you through the phone. So this is our monthly webinar. We're here at the end of every month on the last Wednesday at the address that you get in your emails if you signed up. And okay, Eliza says that she can hear. If I'm not mistaken, Eliza is in Eretz Yisrael, so that's good. They can hear us all the way to Eretz Yisrael. So, Rabbi Heber, we finished Tafshin Pei, starting Tafshin Pei Aleph. Everybody's making up the Simonim. What does Tafshin Pei Aleph stand for? I know this is probably not part of your. I'm putting you on the spot, but have you got a good abbreviation for Tafshin Pei Aleph?
Tehei Shnat Para Aduma.
Okay, very good. I heard Tehei Tafshin Pei Arois.
Right.
Tafshin Pei, we're finished with it because of the corona. We want to be done with that and move on to better things. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for joining us. We will have a recording of this available on our website, Ritz Hashem, and not too long, as all our past webinars are recorded on, and you can play them on our site. If you have any questions for Rabbi Heber, you can chat here in the box on the bottom right of your screen, and we'll try to get to it as soon as possible. Okay, so what is the most special thing, or something very special about this year, Rabbi Heber? Well, how do you want to begin?
Something very special. Okay, so one very interesting thing, which relates to an interesting halacha, and we had this on Rosh Hashanah, we'll have it again on Sukkot. There's a rule that's called Shemini Avirena Dalet Amas B'Shus HaRabbah, which means that Chazal said certain mitzvahs cannot be performed because Chazal were afraid that you might come to carry in the street.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we didn't blow shofar for Rosh Hashanah, and that's why this coming Shabbos is the first day of Sukkot. And although the Torah says to take the Lulav and Esrog, the Dalet Minim, we will not do so because it's saying Gzeir Shemi Avirena. Now, every time, of course, Rosh Hashanah is a Shabbos, the first day of Sukkot is a Shabbos. But what's unique about this year, it's the only type of year where we have the third Shemi Avirena, which actually only applies in Yerushalayim, because, as we know, outside Yerushalayim, we celebrate Purim on the 14th of Adar, and the 14th of Adar will never fall out on a Shabbos. However, in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, which is considered a Mukefes Chaima, Yerushalayim, and Purim could fall out on Shabbos. They don't read the Megillah on that Shabbos. So you have another mitzvah which is not taking place on its designated day, namely the 15th of Adar, which will be a Bolin L'Taiva in several months, because of the same rule of Shemi Avirena Dalet Amas B'Shus HaRabbah. So you have all three cases of Shemi Avirena that are in the Gemara all come out in this year.
So let me ask you, Rabbi Heber, but the shofar, right? The mitzvah of shofar that we don't do on Shabbos was midaraisa. The Torah tells us that it should be done on Shabbos, right? But the Rabbanim came along and they made a rule that you shouldn't do it on Shabbos, as you said, because we're afraid you'll carry the shofar. But Megillah, when the mitzvah was first instituted, it was never instituted on Shabbos.
That's correct. It could be, though, it was. I don't know the history of it, but maybe when they instituted it originally, they said you lay the 14th, in the cities outside, not Mukefes Chaima, the 15th, and maybe at the time they made that exception, or maybe that exception came later. I don't know the history of when they were Misaka Megillah and when they rescinded the ability to lay it on Shabbos. Not sure.
Mm-hmm. One more point, and then I'll let you continue. That is on Rosh Hashanah. There was a question I saw in the Sefer. Can a person who's blowing shofar practice on Rosh Hashanah? Because you're not supposed to blow shofar unnecessarily. So I saw he brought down with this concept that it says that the reason we don't blow on Shabbos is because maybe someone will go learn how to blow on Shabbos and he'll carry it. So apparently it's okay to go learn. So let's say this year on Sunday, a person who was like need a little practice could go. I'm not saying halacha l'maisa, but a person who was blowing on Sunday, maybe he could go and practice a little bit.
Sunday they can practice.
On Sunday, right?
The Shabbos you can practice.
On Motzei Shabbos, right?
Not of course not on Shabbos.
Not on Shabbos, right? Okay, very good. So Purim is different this year, and I'm sure there's many people listening who would like to be in Yerushalayim for Purim. They haven't been there in over 6 months. And we hope that will be able to be possible for whoever wants to do it.
Purim, it'll be Purim Mishulish because it's 3 days in Yerushalayim. On Friday they read the Megillah.
Okay.
Of Yoinim. On Shabbos they say Al Anisim and read Vayav Amalek. And on Sunday they have the Suda and give Shlachmanas. So it'll be an exciting 3 days. Always wanted to go to Yerushalayim for Purim Mishulish. The next chance is in 2025, which is in 4 years, and time after that is 20 years later, which is 2045. So Chaparine, because you got it 4 years and then 24 years from now.
Okay, and if Mashiach comes in between, then we still don't read it on Shabbos, right?
Well, Pasha's not. I mean, but then it could be a different day for him because we'll be Makadosh the Chodesh, Al Pi Re'iyah.
I see.
Purim might technically could get shifted.
Okay.
And of course, when Purim's a Friday, you have Pesach is on Sunday, which is interesting just to note for the listeners. Every year has what's called the Kriyas Hashanah. It's a designation of the year. The first letter, this year is called Zayin Ches Aleph. There's 14 different combinations. It's really very simple to follow. The first letter, Zayin, is the day of the week of Rosh Hashanah, which was Zayin, Shabbos. The last letter is the day of the week of Pesach, which will be a Sunday. The middle letter is either a Ches, Chaf, or Shin. Ches stands for Chaser, which means Cheshvan and Kislev will be both 29 days. They're missing. Shin means Shalem. They're both 30 days. Chaf is Kesidron. That's in order, which means Cheshvan is 29, Kislev is 30. So this year actually is the shortest possible year as a Zayin Ches Aleph. It only has 353 days because it's not a leap year and it's a Chaser. And also, I didn't see that there are a lot of write-ups about this year. I did see this in the Luach from Eretz Yisrael, and Zayin Ches Aleph has the least number of tefillas this year.
Why is that?
On the other year, well, first of all, it's a chassid, so you have less days to daven.
Okay.
It's only 53 days, and also you have Rosh Hashanah. You have so many days on Shabbos, you lose out on some musafs.
I see. Uh-huh. So, what is the significance of not having so many davenings in that year? Does that make it each davening has to be more powerful? What?
I guess daven harder. In other words, they have less. As they say, the saying goes, it's not the comments, it's the eichus. It's how you do it, not necessarily the amount that you do it.
Okay, so this year is a Zayin Ches Aleph year.
Correct. It's unique. It is the third rarest of the 14 combinations. It's the third rarest. It occurs on average about every 23 years. It's not going to occur. The rarest, by the way, we'll call the granddaddy of them all, is called Hey Shin Aleph.
And which means?
Which means that Rosh Hashanah is on a Thursday and Pesach is on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And you have 30 days of both in the middle. That happens once in 30 years. And the Hey Shin Aleph, you have something unique with no other year has. You could possibly wait 71 years. Now I'll test your age. We're not going to give away specific ages, but I remember Purim 1974. We were kids, and Purim was on a Friday. Okay, that year was a Hey Shin Aleph. It hadn't happened in 71 years since 1903. Purim had been on a Friday, but that full year had not happened in 71 years. So that's only once in 30 years. Anyway, Zayin Ches Aleph is once in every 23 years. It happened 20 years ago. 2000, 2001, Tuf Shamach Aleph. It'll happen next in Tuf 58, Tuf Ches 50 5808, which corresponds to 2048, this exact year. What also you have very interesting, and this is a very interesting.
Wait, Heber, I have a question for you.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
When you're telling us all these dates, do you have a teleprompter in front of you with these dates, or it's from your head?
Oh, no, that's the one nice thing I can tell. I'm an honest guy. I don't have a teleprompter.
Okay.
But I could if I wanted.
Okay.
But now, here's what's very interesting, and this has halakhic ramifications. This year, you have an unprecedented 5 yaknahazes, 5 ataydienus. We'll explain that in a moment.
Okay.
Which means you say 5 times yaknahaz. Yaknahaz, of course, is Yain Kiddush Ner Abdullah's man. Actually,
when do you say that?
Abdullah, actually, the last day of the Pesach, you don't have this man, but you say Abdullah together with Kiddush. When is that? So Rosh Hashanah, the second night, right? Rosh Hashanah, the second night.
We just said Abdullah.
We said Abdullah, and it's a very unique tefillah because it's very fascinating to be making Kiddush and Abdullah at the same time. And the Gemara in Pesachim elaborates on exactly how you're supposed to do that. What's the order? You have Shechianu, you have Kiddush, you have Abdullah, you have Ner. There's no Psalmim. Remind me about that in a moment. For everyone to compliment their chefs and their wives at home with that, because actually, I'll tell you now, the Ran says, why don't you make up Psalmim? Motzei Shabbos. If you have a Neshama Yisera, you have a Neshama Yisera, don't you? If we don't make Abdullah on Sunday night, it must mean that we don't have a Neshama Yisera. If you don't have a Neshama Yisera, why don't I make it? Because the food is so good on the second night of Yom Tov, you don't need Psalmim. Right? You don't need Psalmim. Anyway, so we have we have this Yaknahaz, which is the special this tefillah, and in the davening of Ma'ariv, we say a very beautiful tefillah, which the Gemara in Brachos in the 5th parak speaks about, and that's Vatay Dienu. And again, you can do it 5 times. We do it Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, Simchas Torah, the first night of Pesach, and the last night of Pesach. And my son Shmuley pointed out something very interesting. He just told me this morning, and that is in Eretz Yisrael, you have 2 Vatay Dienus. For only time, because Eretz Yisrael has less frequent Yaknahaz of Vatay Dienu, because in Eretz Yisrael you don't have the second night of Sukkot, you don't have Simchas Torah, because they only have a second night of Yom Tov. So in Eretz Yisrael this year you have an unprecedented 2 times that you say Vatay
Dienu. Okay. I wanted to mention something, Rabbi Heber. You mentioned about when we say Yaknahaz in Kiddush. I had this actually this past Rosh Hashanah. I didn't turn the page in my siddur. I forgot to say Havdalah. I only said the Kiddush part. As Chatai Ani Maskir. I forgot to say the Havdalah. And then it was interesting. So what do you do if you forgot Havdalah? So, the Shulchan Aruch talks about it in Hilchos by the Seder that I just took a cup of wine without making a Bar Priagafen. I said the bracha on the Ner, on the candle, and then I said the rest of the Havdalah. That's what I did. Right? Because, so it was very interesting that, like, in the middle of my meal, I just said Havdalah. I told one of my friends this. He said that I probably engineered it like that because it's just an interesting question to talk about. So.
Right, absolutely. No, it is. Again, you don't need Bar Priagafen because you made it already.
Right.
At the end of the day, you have a chiyuv to make Havdalah because you have that obligation.
Right.
It's sort of like, not exactly, but if a person ate cake and dates, let's say, they're supposed to make an alamichya of al forgot you ate the dates, and now you only make an alamichya. When you finish, you got to go back and make al eggs. Again, it's a little different, but it's the same idea.
Okay, so Rabbi, let's go back to some of the questions. Yosef Sendro is asking, why is the Purim Suda postponed to Sunday on going back to when it's a 3-day Purim?
That's a good question. So there's a Gemara in the Yerushalmi actually speaks about this in the Megillah. Well, the Bavli says that first let's ask why don't we lay the Megillah earlier? Okay, one may say, well, that's simple. That's when the rest of the world is laying it on Yudalit, but still, in Mukefes Chaima, Yudalit is really not Purim. So why do you do it then? So the Gemara says that by Megillah it says Lo Yavor. In other words, the Gemara darshans the Bavli. You can't let this Mana Megillah pass. You got to lane it early. That's why the famous Mishnah and Megillah begins in the small towns used to lane the Megillah early. And Al Kibes Gimel Yadalit to your Gimel. The Gemara asks, why not do it later afterwards? The Gemara says, Lo Yavor. Megillah has to be done prior to Purim or on Purim. Okay, so that's why they move it back to Yadalit. However, the Yerushalmi says that su'udos are something that are postponed rather than it's Yerushalmi. I don't know what the Swar of Yerushalmi is, but Yerushalmi says it's actually postponed. And in fact, the Gemara over there says not only the Sudas Purim postponed, but the Sudas Rosh Chodesh is postponed. And that the Machlokes is what Yerushalmi means. One Mandamer says it refers to the Suda that they would make for the Eidim that would come. Right? It was always a good incentive, good kiddush, afterwards. Good incentive for the Eidim to come.
So if they would come on Shabbos, they would do it on Sunday?
I believe that's what the Gemara, in other words, they would give Eidos on Shabbos. They were allowed to come. But that Suda, they had a Suda Shabbos anyway. So believe this party or whatever they did for them was afterwards. That's one shot. The other shot is some people have a minhag of eating that Suda for Chodesh. Something special for Rosh Chodesh. And what do you do on Shabbos? How do you eat a Suda for Chodesh? It's not knickers. And some people add a kugel, something extra. But there are those that actually postpone and say, okay, we'll eat special Malka or Sunday because you postpone the Suda for Chodesh. So Suda, Yerushalmi says, always postponed. And the mashal to this is the Suda Purim, which is postponed. Now, why is it that therefore you give Shlachmanis also? Because one of the reasons Shlachmanis is for the Suda, so that's Sunday. And Matas of Yoinim is Friday because the Aniyim used to come from Megillah. That's the big time they collected. So they put Matas of Yoinim connected to Megillah so that the Aniyim could come and get the funds that they wait for Purim.
Yeah, but so the bottom line is, why don't you make the Suda on Friday?
Because Yerushalmi says all Sudas go after, not before.
Okay, we're not sure why. I see. Okay.
I don't know the Gemara's reason, but it's a fair Yerushalmi in Megillah.
I see. Another question is, Chaim is asking, when we have the Sanhedrin to be Mekadosh the Chodesh, how will we be able to plan for future events? Meaning, I guess.
Right, we won't.
You won't plan. That's why we have 2-day Yom Tov in the first place.
Exactly. I mean, we live in a society where we know when Pesach is going to be in 100 years, and we're used to that. But when Mitzvah will be a Sanhedrin, then they will determine when Rosh Chodesh is. You'll have a basic idea, but it could be one or the other, all depending on when the sighting of the moon is.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. Ezra asks, "Will this veer into kashrus?" And the answer is no, because we talk about things that are other than kashrus. So this is an interesting halachic topic, and that's today's topic. Okay.
Right, but it could veer into kashrus because if a company says they're making a special production, to make it on April the 1st, and now you look at your calendar, you say, okay, that's the Thursday before Pesach. It's a hard day to go in, but I think I could do it. Well, meanwhile, guess what? It might be Pesach itself, depending on when the Eidim comes in. Not quite, but you won't know necessarily. It could be off a day.
Everything is connected. That's true. Okay, and you mentioned before in 1974, Purim was on Friday, right?
Correct.
I was alive, but I have no idea. I mean, you remember that Purim was a Friday then?
I had a keen interest in these Yonim when I was a kid.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so what else? So we did you talked about the Yaknahaz and the Todienu, and why there's no Besamim, because the food is so good, we don't need Besamim. Very good. Okay, anything else that's related to that?
That's the Purim or that? No, but there are other issues to address. As far as there is one other issue, which is a halachic issue, and that is this. I didn't see written up anywhere either. There was some very nice write-ups about this here, but what goes together with the Vataydienu and the Yaknahaz is on Shabbos afternoon, and that is normally most people eat Shal Shudas towards the end of the day. However, when and there's a whole broad halachic issue, when Yom Tov is Motzei Shabbos, and therefore you say Yaknahaz and Vataydienu, so you're still Chaim Shal Shudas. The place can go grapple. We know on Erev Shabbos, let's say regular Friday afternoon, you're not supposed to eat from a half hour before Mincha Ketana, which means Mincha Ketana is 2.5 hours before sunset. A half hour before that is 3 hours before sunset. That's based on the length of the day. This time of year, it's a 60-minute hour. So roughly speaking, if Shkia in Baltimore, I believe, is at approximately 10 to 7, 3 hours before that, and this time of year the hours are even, or 60 minutes, so roughly about 10 to 4 would be the cutoff point. So let's say past Friday afternoon, if you wanted to eat you're not allowed. You're not supposed to wash. Ideally, you're not supposed to wash after that time. So if you wanted to sit down and eat a deli sandwich or a pizza at 4:30 in the afternoon, Erev Shabbos, you can't do it. Now, I should mention this Friday, you can't even design this then, because the preparation for the sukkah, you don't want to fill up because you have the mitzvah say deraisa. So let's just talk about a regular Friday afternoon, and so on. So fine. So that Friday, we all know that no one washes at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. The problem now, though, is that we're going to eat our Suda on Shabbos, Yom Tov, and Shmini Atzeres, and we'll eat it, let's say, at 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we'll finish. Mm-hmm. And now normally Shabbos should be later, Shabbos afternoon, but if you wait till 5:30, you're now eating at a time it's Erev, the second night of Yom Tov. And therefore, you're running into a problem because you're not supposed to ideally wash at that late hour. So we say the halacha is like this. Ideally, one should wash before Mincha Ketana, which means if you could make it work, you should each al shudas. Again, in Baltimore, 10 to 4. In other communities, give or take, going to be around that general time. You can look up at your local luach, and you should ideally wash before that time. However, if you miss that time, the Rabbi once told me this. I was able to be the Gabbai in Aguda before I was Rav. I was a couple of years Gabbai in Aguda. I had the chus of spending time behind him and his Gabbai, asking him questions and so on. And I remember he wanted to make sure, whatever with the times, that people understood that V'di'evet, if you missed the cutoff, you could still wash. So this is very again. You come home from shul on hopefully you get to go to shul. Everyone should be well. On the first day of Sukkot or Shmini Atzeres, davening is long. It's late. You finish the sukkah at 2 o'clock, let's say 2:30, and now you want to take a nap. So you take a nap and you wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. You should wash with like a Mishnah for Shal Shudas then, because B'di'evet, if you miss the cutoff, it's better to wash than the skip Shal Shudas. Now you shouldn't go all grand Shal Shudas though.
What was Rav Heinemann's chiddush? Isn't that explicit halacha? What was Rav Heinemann's chiddush?
The chiddush was, I'll tell you what the chiddush was. This was when I was Gabbai. I don't know if it changed, but we did not print it in the luach. He wanted it announced better. In other words, if you print it in the luach, then people will think it's hard. It's kavua, and if you miss this time, too late. So he was afraid people would wake up at 4:30 and they would see, 3:50. I can't eat anymore, and they would be mavatal shal shudas. So he told me, don't put it in the luach. You'll announce on Shabbos morning that the ideal time. He'll explain the ideal time is by 3:50. But if you miss it, you should eat afterwards. Now some people break the suda, and one has to be careful with that also. What some people might choose to do is they'll eat the suda. Let's say they sit down to eat at 12:30. Okay, you can only eat shal shudas after the Zman of Mincha Gedolah. That's a half hour after midday, after Chatzais. In Baltimore, now it's about 1:25. Roughly, it's going to be in any town in the United States, it'll be roughly somewhere between about 1:15 and 1:45 in most communities. Again, you look up at the Luach. And now, you want to eat shal shudas after that time. So they eat sort of 12:30. They finish at 1:30. Okay, you can't just bench and then go wash 2 minutes later. Shal shudas. So you finish the suda at 1:30. Okay, let's bench and let's wash. That's a bracha she'en tzricha. That's an unnecessary bracha. Why should you bench and wash again?
Right, you have to make a break. Right.
Correct. Some people walk around the block. Maybe there's early mincha somewhere. Right. You have a mincha, and then you clear the table and you take a walk, somewhere. Right. And we'll have this issue again. Let's save it for then.
So you're saying that this happens how many times this year?
5 times.
5 times. Could you go?
So go with an asterisk.
So, okay. Well, I'll go through them.
It happened Rosh Hashanah. It happened Rosh Hashanah is one. It happens this coming Shabbos afternoon, Sukkot. Okay. It will happen Shmini Atzeres. Okay. It will happen on the 7th day of Pesach. Shvi Shal Pesach, because Achad Shal Pesach is Matzah Shabbos. Right. Okay. The 5th time is Erev Pesach. You'll have an Erev Pesach Shabbos, which is a whole topic in its own right.
I see. Okay.
The last Wednesday. Actually, the last Wednesday of February, because the last Wednesday, what's unique about this year, not unique, but it's a very early year, Pesach begins in March. So I'm just telling you that the last Wednesday of March is going to be the day before the times B'chayim, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Erev Pesach, it's the second busiest day in our office. Am I correct?
March 2021?
Yeah, March. Pesach is March. Is the end of March.
So it's 28th of March is first day of Pesach.
Correct, which is a Sunday.
Right. So what are you saying?
Saying, well, to be on your program, I'm booking.
Oh,
the last Wednesday is the second busiest day in the office.
I see.
Okay, so you got to go back to the last Wednesday in February. The problem with that is that's the day before Tainus Esther. Because Purim is in February also. Yeah. So you may need to change the program time to somewhere in March. You'll tell your listeners in advance.
Right, it's flexible. We have flex time.
Maybe the Wednesday after Purim. But all kidding aside, that's a whole topic in itself. Exactly how to do Shalosh Shudas on Erev Pesach Shabbos. Maybe we'll save it for the Wednesday after Purim.
I see. Okay, now I get you. Okay, because then you have a problem with eating. How you gonna eat? You can't eat matzah and you can't eat challah. Right, that's the whole story. Let me go through some of these questions, Rabbi Heber. We'll take a little break. We'll give you a chance to catch your breath. Let me get back to some of these. Okay. Menashe is saying, in my case, I think he's going back in my case, where I missed saying Havdalah. I forgot to say Havdalah during the Yak Nahaz. I could have used a different or better wine and then said Tova Ametiv. Okay, that's true. But why would that be an advantage for Havdalah?
No, it just means you get to make a bracha on the wine.
Okay, so I'm totally only grape juice, so that wouldn't work for me. I don't drink wine, but I hear. Okay. Then Dovid is saying, should one eat a third meal when Yom Tov is on Shabbos? I think that's the question that you were just discussing.
Yeah. Okay. When the last day of Yom Tov is Shabbos, it's easy. You eat a regular Shalosh Shudas.
Right. Okay. Right. Yes. We're talking about where it's Erev Yom Tov. Okay. Dovid wants to know what your opinion is on the Yak Nahaz candles that they sell. What is I'm not sure. I'm not sure of what those are. They're like twisted, like a Havdalah candle.
The Yak Nahaz candle. The problem is most people you don't want to light regular Havdalah candle, but the Shabbos.
Right. Of course.
It's a long candle.
Right.
They make what's called Yak Nahaz candles, which is a small candle and it has a double wick. So you just light it, on Motzei Shabbos, and now you get to do the Bar Meir HaEish, on a double wick candle. It's a chumrah. It's a cute thing. But you're not mechuyev to do that. We allow you to make on the neiros that are lit in your home, the regular candles that the Balabasta lights. You should not tip them. We spoke this over behind him in once.
Right.
You don't want to tip them so that you normally, if a regular Motzei Shabbos weeknight, if you have two loose candles, you don't have a regular adult candle, you take two candles and hold them together to get the double wick. You don't want to do that on Motzei Shabbos because you pull them apart. There might be a mice keyboard. You're running into potential problems. All you need to do is some people different minhagim. You just need to push up, just the candles as close as they go together, with it not tipped over. Or some people just, from a distance, will just, or go over to the candles that are there, and that's good enough.
My meaning is we hold them like this, like that, together, but not
touching, right? Touch and get drops, right? You move them close.
Uh-huh. Okay, Chaim says 1977 was Purim Mishulish.
That's correct, and so was 1981.
Okay, and Asar
B'Tevis, if you want, but not for now.
Asar B'Tevis was on Friday.
Yes, that's this year. Asar, I'll tell you something about Asar B'Tevis. Asar B'Tevis is a Friday this year. It happens in 4 of the types of years that are there. So it's not common, but it's not rare. In a very interesting Inyan and in Asar B'Tevis in a regular year is the same day of the week as the upcoming Purim. So this year Purim is on a Friday.
Right. So
Asar B'Tevis is a Friday. In a leap year, Asar B'Tevis is the same day of the week as the upcoming Simchas Torah. That would be Simchas Torah of the next year, right? So therefore, for example, in a leap year where the next Simchas Torah is a Friday, right? That means Pesach is a Tuesday. Pesach is a Tuesday. The next Simchas Torah is a Friday. Then Asar B'Tevis is also on a Friday. So, it happens. It happens.
Well, we fast. We fast like regular, right?
Right. It's a fascinating day. Right. Fascinating day. You come to shul Friday afternoon, and you lay. This year, most people have a hard time with that because, which leads to another interesting topic. I'll roll this into one. Asar B'Teves is on Friday, December 25th. So usually, it's hard enough in the winter to get to shul on time, and it's very chashuv to be there on time. But this year, many people don't work because it's a legal holiday.
It's an off day.
December 25th. So the rush and the problem of getting there for many won't apply because they're off anyway, and therefore you don't have the problem. Which leads to another interesting thing about the Zayin Ches Aleph here. It's the least number of days that people have to take off of work.
If they work on Chol Hamoed.
They have to work on Chol Hamoed, exactly. There's 13 days of Yom Tovim, 13 Yom Tovim that we have during the year. That if a person works, they have to tell their boss they need to take off. Some allow, some allow it. It's paid vacation. Some make you take vacation days. If you have to take off vacation days, or even if you don't, a person newly employed, it's a good time to get a job now because you won't need to say, this coming year. You can say we all have Jewish holidays, but it won't be relevant for another year or so because think about it. You have Yom Kippur with a Monday, the other Yom Tov will weekend, and then Pesach will be Sunday, Monday. So Monday is one day, and then the last day is a Shabbat Sunday. So again, no problem. And Shavuos will be Monday, Tuesday. So you only have 4 days that one has to take off of the 13. Again, Purim will be a good day to take off too, because especially it's a Friday. So short. But Tisha B'Av will be on a Sunday, so also besides Chol Hamoed.
So so if a person works in Chol Hamoed, he doesn't have to take off very much. Okay, let's keep going with Rabbi Heber. I have a calendar right here on my wall. That's why I keep looking at it just to reference it.
Wow.
But, so I have a little cheat sheet. Okay, when is the next time Hanukkah starts in November? It happened a few years ago.
It happened in 2013. Next year, at the end of next year, it's close. I don't know, does it start November 30th next year? I don't know off the cuff.
My calendar is only for this year. I'm sorry.
Actually, next year, we can look that up. I can tell you for sure, well, it's most likely in 2032.
Okay.
I'm going to have to...
Okay, all right. Well, we'll you can take a look at that. We'll go to the next question. Okay. Going back to the question about the early mincha.
It is. It's November 28th next year.
Okay.
November 28th.
November 28th. Okay. Perfect.
Not the coming Hanukkah, the one after that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
The night of. In other words, it's the 29th. It's the night of the 28th, going into the 29th, which is very early, exceptionally early.
Okay. Okay. So remember, we took a couple of questions. Let's get back to your. Do you have any other issues that you want to bring up?
I want to bring actually 3 points. One is, well, I'll tell you the neat thing at the end. So make sure we don't hang up before I tell you what I consider very fascinating off of Luach and Eretz Yisrael. But before that, just another couple tidbits. There's no Shabbos Chol Hamoed this year. It's the only type of year that has no Shabbos Chol Hamoed. That's also very infrequent.
So the kids like it, right? Because that way you have full Chol Hamoed to be able to go away.
Correct. This year will be a little bit tough for people to get away. With everything going on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
Right. Not going to be so simple.
Right.
Yeah, also, okay, Miketz, a lot of people were talking about this. This happens, it does not only happen in Zayin Ches Aleph, it could happen in a leap year that begins like this, Zayin Ches, where you lay the Haftarah Parshas Miketz, which is very interesting. Hanukkah is a Friday, begins on Thursday night, which also very interesting. You lay 3 Friday mornings in a row. The first day Hanukkah, the last day Hanukkah, Asar B'Teves.
Wow.
Okay, 3 Friday mornings in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, now, the Haftarah, I get this question periodically, and this actually hasn't happened since 2001. It's actually the end of 2000. And that is, you lay an Haftarah of Miketz. People look at the Chumash of Miketz. It's actually a very famous Haftarah. It's about Shlomo HaMelech that was asked, the fight between whose baby is this?
Mm-hmm.
So that Haftarah is lame, because usually Miketz is on Shabbos Hanukkah.
I see.
However, whenever Hanukkah begins on a Friday, and here I'll explain why. It's a very simple why this happens. You have, since the Torah is on Sunday this year.
Simple, Rabbi Heber, in this issue, simple is relative. But okay.
I'll say very simple. This one's simple. Let me throw this one out. Shabbos Bereshis is very late. In other words, you have a whole week to lay Shabbos Bereshis. We all know sometimes Shabbos Bereshis, my Sedra, if the Torah is on a Friday, you got to scramble.
Right.
So here you got a whole week, right? So it started Sunday, and then you have a whole week preparation. So the parashas run very late, right? In other words, you get a late start on parashas.
Okay.
Plus, because you have the Chosser and Cheshvan, that means Miketz is after Hanukkah. Miketz is usually during Hanukkah. Because we don't start laning until way after Sukkot Torah, relatively speaking. Mm-hmm. It's late. So Miketz falls out the day after Hanukkah.
So you're saying that Haftorah of Shlomo Melech is a rare Haftorah that we lane.
That's correct.
How rare is it?
It's about once in 10 years.
Wow.
It's about once in 10 years. It's about the rarest Haftarah is Haftarah of Kedoshim, which is extremely rare. Extremely rare. This one is about once in 10 years. I think the Achronim is about once in 27 years on average. But this one and Pinchas and Chutz La'aretz are the two, the next 2 and 3 of the rarest Haftarahs. They're about the same. Come out the same. A little bit, one's a little bit more than the other. But the Ma'aseh of case is also it's a rare Haftarah. If you're Bar Mitzvah Bacher and you want to do your Haftarah another year, you have to wait a while. Truma is Shabbos Zachar only this year. Usually it's Tzava or a leap year. It's going to be a Vaker Tzam. So Truma is Shabbos Zachar. And what's interesting is the Haftarah, it's the only time you have the same Haftarah 2 weeks in a row. Full Haftarah. Because Shabbos Zachar you lay in about Agag. The following Shabbos is Shushan, I'm talking Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, you lane by Amalek. The Haftarah is about Agag. About Agag came from Amalek. It's Sefer Shmuel. So you lane the same Haftarah, the complete Haftarah 2 weeks in a row. Only Yerushalayim in this type of year.
Okay. I'm going to go and hear it.
Shem. Shem.
Okay, so let's take some more of the questions. Let's go back to some of the other issues. If I take you off topic for a second, there are some people who had trouble on the phone. I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties, and we're doing the best we can. Going back to the Yak Nahaz, the question is, Dovid is asking, do you do with the fingers like that?
Some are naik, some are. I think there's prevalent minhag is yes to do it. I know there are some who are naik just to look at the neighbors.
Okay, and Shalashulis we discussed, and that's it. I think we took most of the questions. Okay, so yeah, go ahead. Anything else that was?
So two other notes. One of it is this nothing to do with the Zayin Chatzalas, which I'll come back to in a minute. Okay. But as we mentioned, it's a very early year. In the 19-year cycle, we have a cycle of 19 years. Some years are late, and some years are early, and some years are average. A late year would be like Pesach goes into May, or Hanukkah goes into January. That's like very, very exceptionally late. This year it's not the earliest, but it is almost 1 or 2 days later than the earliest type of year. And just to illustrate, we saw Purim is in February, Pesach is in March, Hanukkah is in November. And what's really interesting is that Erev Rosh Hashanah is Labor Day. So I know the schools in New York, they start after Labor Day, like no matter what. But I think in this year, it's not going to be no matter what. If they wait till the day after Labor Day, that's Rosh Hashanah.
Wow.
So they'll have to, they're not going to start saying Gedaya. The kids got to learn about Rosh Hashanah.
Right.
So I assume they're going to have to modify that calendar because, again, it's just so exceptionally early.
So you think they'll start in August?
I guess, or maybe Labor Day's late.
Well, they have to make up for this year, so they have to start in July.
Yeah, tell that to all the kids. Now, I want to conclude, and again, unless anyone has any more questions.
Before you conclude, Heber, I want to let our listeners know that we should have the ability to take a verbal question from you, and if you have your camera on, we would like to hear from you, or your microphone. We'll try that after Rabbi Heber finishes his next point. If you want to speak up. Other than typing, you can just put your name in there, and I'll when we get to it, I'll be able to open up your mic. Okay, go ahead, Rabbi Heber.
So this is very interesting. The year Zion Ches Aleph. If you look at the numbers, it's 7, 8, 1. Right? Zion is 7, which really stands for Shabbos. Ches is 8. Chaser Aleph is 1. What's the name of the year? 57, 8. 1.
Wow.
the Kviyas Hashana matches the name of the year. Okay,
Wow.
with the last 3 digits.
So what is that? What is that? What is it? I hear it's like interesting, but what does it mean?
Not enough. Maybe it means that Klal Yisrael means we all come together. Everything comes together. They happen once in the history of the calendar.
It's a good simon. It's a good simon.
But Shil Hasheni made the calendar, established the calendar in the year 4119. That's 359 of the Common Era. We're talking about 1,670 years ago. In all those 1,600 years, such an event has only happened once, and that is in the year 5283. It was a Beis Ches Gimel year, right? You had Rosh Hashanah on Monday, it was a Chasser, and Gimel of Pesach was on a Tuesday. That was 498 years ago.
That was what was that? 5283?
That was 5283, right?
5283 was the Beis Ches Gimel year.
Exactly. Exactly. Which was corresponding. It was 1522, 1523. So the early 1500s was the only time you had the Kviyas Hashana matched the actual name of the year.
It has to be a good simon.
Absolutely. We need all the good money we can get.
Yeah, we need all right. Exactly. Ephraim is asking, where does one learn about these cycles that you're talking about? Zayin Chesal, Beis Ches Gimel. So one thing before you answer, Rabbi Heber, I want to give a plug. Rabbi Heber writes an article every week for Yated. Is that right? With different calendaric permutations and chidushim and so we don't have any connection with Yated, and we don't have any it's not we don't push it. But Rabbi Heber's article is something that if you want to see that, you could get. Okay, Menashe is asking, can we get those online, Rabbi Heber? Oh, we have to wait till you're safe.
I'm putting it into a book, Mr. Shem.
So we can buy the safer. Okay.
We'll go on your show again. Promote the book. If someone wants, I'm happy to share. If someone wants a certain topic, they should feel free to email me. I send out these articles all the time. I've never posted them formally online, and I'm happy to share any topic. If someone has, people ask me questions, and a lot of times I've written on it. So I just send out the question and answer. Mr. Shem, I took what I would, some of there's different ones. I picked and choose from different ones to put up.
I'm sure it will be a good companion to your other Sefer Shari's Manu. But
thank you very much for the bracha.
Okay, so
someone wants to know where to learn. I'm going to answer that question.
Oh yeah, so where do you learn about these things?
There's a book by Rabbi Bushwick that's on the Jewish calendar that goes through some of these concepts. I'm not sure if it's out of print, but it was very, very well written.
It's an English Sefer or Hebrew Sefer?
Yes, English. If you want to learn Kodesh, if you take the Mishnayos Tiferes Yisrael, which is the older regular standard Mishnah, is called Yachid Boaz, also known as Tiferes Yisrael. In the Hakdama, in the introduction to Mayad Aleph, the Tiferes Yisrael wrote many little contrasim on different topics. One is called Kakel Shabbos. He speaks about Shabbos and Yom. One of those pamphlets, right, which was published at the beginning of Mayad Aleph, is called Shvila Derakia, where he elaborates on the calendar and Yom. It's not the first parts of it are not that complicated to go through. A little bit later, it gets a little bit, when he starts dealing with the melodies and the calculations, that gets a little bit more complicated. But the basics at the beginning are very laid out very, very clearly. That's how I learned when I was in Tel Aviv, Chicago. I had an interest as a kid, and then once I started to learn how to learn and was exposed to these svarim, I enjoyed it very much.
But I have a question for you, Rabbi Heber. All of these things that we're talking about, like we mentioned before, when Mashiach comes, we are going to sanctify the moon according to the way, right, by the Re'iyah, by the way we see it. So all of these things, Zayin Chesal, Beis Ches Gimel, everything you're talking about, when this day, it's all going to be history.
Correct. So it'll be history. People's car. What happened when? How do you tell us what it is, and so on? But it happened. You're right. But we want Mashiach to come soon, and I hope it puts some of those questions out of business.
I see. Okay. You mentioned there was something that you wanted that I should remind you about.
Well, that was Chesal for the year.
That's what you wanted to mention. Okay. Okay, very good. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question in person, like video or by audio? Please chat with us in the last few minutes here.
I see one of your
Yeah,
listeners is noting
yeah.
Rosh Chodesh Av is on Shabbos, and that is true. Rosh Chodesh Adar and Rosh Chodesh Av are both on Shabbos.
And what is the significance of that?
So there are two interesting points on this. Number one, the first day of Adar and the first day of Av are the only 2 months of the year that always begin on the same day as each other. Of course, there's 12 months, so you can have repeats. But the only 2 months in the same calendar year that are begin on the same day.
You mean they always on the same?
Always on the same day. The only two are Av and others. That's first very interesting because we say Shem Shemishnichnas Av and Matim B'Simcha, Kach Mishnisa Adar Marim B'Simcha. It's just like when Av starts and we decrease Simcha, joy, so to another. So they're very intertwined.
That's interesting.
Of Adar and Av.
Very interesting.
Right. But what's interesting is Rosh Chodesh Av is it's the only time that you lane in the Torah a regular parsha and you mention that day. What do I mean? Let's say Parshas Bay. Parshas Bay we lane about the 15th of Nisan, the first day of Pesach, right? His betraying took place.
Right.
But we don't lane it on the 15th of Nisan. Of course, we lane it as Yontiv, special laning. But when we lane Bay falls out in the middle of winter.
Right.
A little before Tu B'Shvat, we lane it. So you don't lane that. And there are many days in the Torah that are written. Actually, Noach has Yud Zayin, if you say that's Cheshvan, it comes close, but it misses it. The only time you ever lane the day on the day is when Rosh Chodesh Av falls on Shabbos. The Parsha Shavua is either you're going to lane in a regular year. It's going to be Matzah and Matzah together, and in a leap year it'll be Matzah alone. Okay, so either way you lane Matzah, and in Matzah we say by Yom Aaron HaKohen died on the first day of the 5th month, which is Rosh Chodesh Av.
Right.
So you lane about Rosh Chodesh Av on Rosh Chodesh Av.
I see. When it falls out on Shabbos.
Which is this year.
Okay, very good. Interesting. All right, Rabbi Heber, thank you very much for your time. And I want to mention to everyone, if you have any questions on kashrus or other questions, halacha questions, you can reach us at 410-484-4110. You can email us at info@star-k.org. Again, info@star-k.org. And if you want to send Rabbi Heber a follow-up, you can send it there and just note that they should forward it to him. And I want to apologize for our technical difficulties. We did get Rabbi Heber here on the phone, and hopefully, but something is with our computers. We need to get the tech support on that. So we should be back. The next last Wednesday of the month is going to be the 28th of October. Yud Cheshvan. What's special about Yud Cheshvan, Rabbi Heber? Anything?
Yud Cheshvan. I mean, it's the middle of Bahab.
Okay, there we go.
It'll be 2 weeks before Election Day. 6 days before Election Day.
All right.
That's pretty special, huh?
All right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, right. Emrit Hashem, we should be able to get safely through the Yom Tovim and through the year in good health. And we want to thank everyone again. I appreciate your patience, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but I think in the end it was more than worth it to hear these words of wisdom from Rabbi Heber. Thank you very much. Everybody have a very good Yom Tov. Take care. Be well.